Three, two, one. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Empowered by M's podcast. I'm so excited to be bringing you another guest feature episode, and today I'm joined by Temu Igho. And she is a beautiful African queen who is really, really passionate about training and teaching about motherhood, about holistic perspectives when it comes to childbirth as well as child rearing and raising. I absolutely love what she has to say when it comes to what we are feeding our children's minds and how we can be more intentional as parents, as the nurturers, to really cultivate a sense of confidence, a sense of self trust, and a sense of true discipline in our children. So, Temu has been captivated by the naturalness and the societal acceptance around pregnancy and has seen that local methods of birth preparation and non pathologized home births are really a beautiful avenue that women can explore when it comes to empowering themselves in their birth and mothering process. So our specific podcast series, it's going to be a series with Temu. You're going to see her at least two or three times on the podcast, and we're going to explore the journey from being a maiden, right, being a young woman, to all the way to being a mother. So all the phases and all the different stages that a young woman goes to in order for her to become that end product. Whether it's motherhood for you or not for you, I think it's going to be really crucial what we cover in these series of episodes and what we have to share with our audience today. So Temu, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for having me in your home as well. It's so lovely to be here.
Thank you.
So let's get started first with a little bit of a background about yourself. The people might not know who you are, and I want them to know who you are.
Okay, I'm Temu Loveth, like I said, and I'm a nurse midwife. I grew up as a nurse midwife, so in the sense that I grew up in a family where midwifery is in a generation. And like I always tell people, at the time I thought midwifery was the only thing that women do. So I grew up seeing that, and then growing up over time, had to go to the university, of course, to legalize it, that I can actually assist deliveries and assist women. But again, have to go through nursing process before midwifery. I have assisted like 528 births at home, all physiological, no, emergencies or anything, and no casualties. And I'm very proud and grateful to the universe of that. And I'm so excited about young people and their mind and what's happening today, especially the girl child. I mean, not to leave out the boy child, but the girl child. So, and thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. I absolutely loved connecting with Temu. I believe I manifested her like everything else in my life.
Well, I did as well.
Because I too have been really curious about the path of non-medicated home births. As crazy as that's going to sound, I know I say this to my family often, and they're all like, "Don't involve us in this." I was literally asking my mom the other weekend. She was like, "I want no parts of this story."
Okay.
She's like, "Just call me once the baby's out." She just can't fathom it. So today we're going to explore a little bit of the aspect of menstruation for a young woman. We're going to talk about mental health, and we're also going to explore what are some of the foods that a young woman can eat to nurture her body and to support her as she's moving through this very crucial, important stage. So can you share a little bit with us the physiological process behind some of the different phases of the menstruation cycle and how it affects us overall?
I had actually put a little bit of notes down because of what we had discussed now. Firstly, the menstruation is really, really underrated on one hand. On the other hand, overrated when it comes to the stigmatization of it. So the menstrual had there are four different phases. You have the first phase, which is the menstruation, the beginning, the onset of the menstruation itself, which actually depends on the individual, 1 to 4 days, right? Now, in this time, what happens is the uterine wall sheds. That wall, which had produced itself, in the last phase,
Mm.
preparing to implant a child, right? To do an implantation of an egg or whatever. It sheds leading to the bleeding. Now, in this stage, there are some very important things that people need to understand, like the fatigue. There's lots of tiredness. People get really weak. You are headache. You could be sensitive as well, but the sensitive is mostly in the third stage of the menstruation. What is very, very important at this time is people should take lots of rest. And that's where the young girls or women in general, we overlook it and we think it's just a normal thing. But you need to understand that blood is actually life. And if blood is life, which blood is the vehicle that transports everything into our body. Now we're losing blood means we're losing everything at the same time. So we need to rest to have lots more energy, or a lot of sort of resolve and save energy for ourselves and eat right. Then you have the next stage, the follicles phase, which is a phase where now this thickened wall has already been there, the hormone rises. This is the FSH phase. That's how you would hear it, follicle stimulating phase. At this time, the egg is sort of built and groomed in the ovaries. These groomed eggs stay there over time. Women, what happens is that people start to feel uh, have this sensual feeling, if I would put it that way, because the follicle stimulating hormone, which work closely with estrogen, actually is in charge of our, the feminine thing, the looks, the curves that we have, which make us really despicable from a man. And then we have the ovulation phase where that egg, which has already been stimulated, grown, and nurtured in the ovary, is released. At this time is the time where a woman will get pregnant. Now, in this third phase, it's quite crucial to understand that people think that they get pregnant on the 14th day if a woman is having a 28-day cycle, right? But what happens is at least 5 days, at least, I say at least because I've seen people 7, 9 days. So 5 days before the 14th day, the woman is likely to get pregnant. And if you are someone, people in their 40s like me, there's chances of you getting pregnant even 2 days after. So that's a very good way that which I train and I teach young girls to protect themselves from getting pregnant rather than going into pills, which are a silent killer on one other hand. And then you have the final phase, which is the phase of the luteal phase. Now, the ruptured follicle in this phase, what it does is that it degenerates and drops. The estrogen levels then go down. Now, when the estrogen level is going down, what happens again is there's a building up of the uterine wall, again preparing the body for the next cycle. So when this wall builds out, the progesterone rises. If any sperm comes in from the other phase before, it binds, and then you hear implantation.
So you can also get pregnant.
And then you get pregnant, yes. So it's not just, so it's the sperm from the sperm, or the man thing from the ovulation phase stays in the body of a woman. It is said medically or scientifically 5 days.
Oh wow.
But I have seen people, like my last child, I could tell you, it stayed for 10 days or maybe more. So it depends on how your body is. Everybody is really an individual in this case. So so this now, the preparation is then met with the progesterone and the whole thing. And if there is a pregnancy, if there's an implantation, that stays. If there is no implantation, it goes through a phase of hormonal balance and imbalances, and then it sheds again. So this is the fourth phase. What happens in all of this process, one very important thing is that food, the kind of food we eat, is very important. I like to tell people in the first phase to eat lots of green vegetables. So replenish. Green is iron. You are releasing lots of iron. You want to eat dark green vegetable, leafy vegetable, lots of spinach. Even if there's a whole lot of questions about spinach, but it couldn't be killing you. It's only doing more good than harm. And then in the second phase, it's very important to eat lots of fruits. Because at this time, now what happens is this time you're trying to build an egg to make the egg more, mobility level very strong as much as possible for those who are trying to conceive. And then at the third stage, what I tell people to do is eat lots of omega-3, like avocado, flaxseed, If you are not a vegetarian, fish, like
Mm.
fish with oil, fish like salmon,
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 sardines.
sardine, exactly. And then the final phase, again, you begin the rest.
Mm.
Because whatever you do in the first phase is going to affect the next first phase. So for people who are having lots of PMS,
Mm.
it depends a lot about your food, a lot on
Mm.
the food that you eat at the first phase
Mm.
before the next cycle.
Mm. I think that's such a good point. I always say, or I started to notice that how I would treat my body in terms of rest, recovery, working out, food, water, that in a particular cycle would affect my bleed. And I would feel it. I would be like, oh, I didn't take care of myself. Or,
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, I did an okay job, because
Yeah.
the effects are almost felt immediately through my cramps, through how my energy is, and how
Mm-hmm.
my mood is. So it's very telling, and I love how you laid it out. I think my mind has opened up to this. I mean, I've heard it so many times and read it and written about it myself, but I just love hearing perspectives and teachings from other people's mouths, because everybody carries their own frequency, and the way
Okay.
that you say something could just be the thing that somebody needed to hear for this knowledge to click and for it to really shift something in their life. So that was very powerful. Thank you so much for sharing. I also loved what you said about um, what happens with the ovulation and that period, because I last year made the decision to go off the pill and to begin to track my cycle. And so that was where a lot of the learning that I did
Mm-hmm.
came from, and just checking my temperature every day. I like started
Mm-hmm.
with that, and then just tracking, seeing, oh, okay, now I'm ovulating. Oh, okay. And my window of safety that I say is like 7 days that
Mm-hmm.
I've laid out. So a good 3 days before, then there's like that one day that you ovulate. And I'm using a tracking app. It may be completely wrong compared to what's happening in my body, but I just cross fingers and hope that it's right. And so far, it's been a year that I've been just tracking my cycle that way, and I've been fine, no baby yet
Okay.
that I want.
Because you've not manifested it as
Yes,
well. Because
exactly.
you've not manifested it.
She's
Because
my girl.
I'm getting into the manifestation thing. No, because the thing is that at that time, for younger girls, for people 17, 16, 18,
Way more fertile.
it's so, I like to tell them when I teach them that the sperm, even if it's traveling, you just magnet it, you're like the magnet to them. So in people in their 40s, it could be a bit later, it could be 2 days before, a day before. In the 30s, what I notice is that it could be 3, 4 days, but really, because I work with young girls, I tend to really put my lectures mostly on them.
Mm.
It's really like 5, 7 days before
Mm.
before the ovulation itself, because the whole area is lubricated,
Right?
like you feel the cervical, your
Mm-hmm.
whole thing
Mm-hmm.
before then.
Yeah.
And then the travel is easier
Yeah. Right?
because the place is already road is already
Yeah.
tagged. They
Yeah.
don't need to poke all the grasses anymore. It just goes in and stays there
It
and
stays and
waits,
waits until
and it
it's.
just oh, there you are, and it
Yes.
catches it. That's what happens.
Wow. I love it. It's so visual. Like my mind is like, oh, that was so lovely put. Thank you. So how does okay, you talked a little bit on nutrition and how it plays a role in the menstruation cycle, but how would you say it's important for a woman throughout her life in general? The importance she places on her food.
Okay, I would answer this question I'll try to answer it in a way that will come across really better. When I tell people that I'm over 45, people don't accept it. And I don't gym. Well, I gym in my mind.
That mental gym.
Yeah, I call it mental gym. But what I do is my food. So I think generally, for women in general, from you have to understand from 0 to 50 years of age, you're working with your genes. Like with you could say you could get something your mother had, which is just 1, 2, 3%, right?
Mm.
From my understanding. Now from then onward, it's about you, what you eat, how you take care of yourself. But the important thing is how you prepare to that 50 years of age or 40 years of age is very vital. We have to stay generally as women away from processed food. There is a whole misconception that when you eat fruits and sweet fruit, that you're gonna get diabetic. No, you're not going to get diabetic because your body resonates with the same fruit frequency.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Mm.
Now, stay away from processed food. I tell people, as much as we love to cook, we love to, we're not career women. We like to have everything, the canned food in the fridge there, but stay away from them as much as possible, because this is what prepares us, through the next phases of our lives. Food is also very important when it comes to the mental health. It's so from my daughter you just met. She was going through a whole lot of PMS, like a terrible PMS that we have to land in the hospital every month. So what I did, or every second month, because she has the cycle every second month. So what I did was, okay, let's do a work on this. And then we started working on it. And then we cut sugars away. The moment we cut sugars away, the whole PMS went to 30%. The moment we cut general processed food, from McDonald's to KFC to Burger King to, I'm sorry, I have to mention them because these are not food. There's something that is not called food. I don't know what they are, but not food. It went to like 50% away. And at the time she came to the understanding to eat at the right stage. So I told her, okay, this is time for your leafy green cooked food. This is time for your vegetables. This is time for your fruits. This is your fish. It's been like over a year. We don't have this PMS anymore. And she was about being put on a pill and stuff to stop this. So it is really, really important to understand that these are the things that builds up sort of a building block, preparing you into womanhood, into grandmotherhood, into menopause, and so on and so forth. But I would say it has a whole lot to do. Then when you talk about the mental part of it, it is just amazing. We crave sugar. We crave sugar, and many people do not know that the reason why they crave sugar is because a certain thing is out of their body. Their iron is down, their magnesium is out of place, and when your magnesium is out of place, automatically you would be feeling sort of weak, sort of less effective as a human. Now, talking about the iron, it affects our mental health a whole lot, whether we like it or not, because iron is not just iron that magnets every other 102 minerals to your body. What iron also does is the one that turns oxygen into the power that it has for the brain. And so if the brain is not having enough oxygen, is not functioning efficiently, it means some part of the brain, be it the hypothalamus, the whatever, is lacking behind. And automatically we start feeling depressed. We start feeling anxiety. We start feeling this mood swing. So it affects a whole lot, when it comes. That's something I could talk about for a whole day.
Forever. And I'm listening to you thinking, oh my goodness.
So what I tell people is you want to really look into things like parsley, Celtic salt in your water first thing in the morning. You want to take things like plums. Plums is all over Namibia. Plums is very, very rich. Coconut water first thing in the morning. I have them everywhere, every day. So you want to make sure that the whole body, there's a lot of iron in your body all the time. It affects us from 13 years old when it starts to 60 or 50 when it stops, and even beyond. And even beyond, because the amount of the way we prepare our body in this time depends on how our body will be in our old age. Osteoporosis, article, all of these things.
And I believe that so much. Wow. I'm sitting here thinking, whoa. Wow, it's very empowering for me to hear this, because I feel like, oh, I've been on the right path, taking care of myself as much as with the knowledge that I've had. But now with food, it's even gone to another level, because I used to ignore it a bit and think that I could get away with things because I was working out. And now it's not true, my friends.
No, you could get away with some things like burning of the fat, shedding the fat that the body doesn't really need. But then the things that go settle into the bone marrows, which actually produces our blood, the factory of our blood, it's going to stay.
Yeah, it's going to stay.
It's going to stay.
It's going to stay. Oh my goodness. So powerful. Thank you. I'm just going to thank you after everything you say, because I feel like I'm like in a wisdom minefield. So, what are some of the misconceptions that are out there when it comes to women's menstruation cycles and nutrition and mental health as well? Let's tie that all in together.
So tying it all together, I would say now, first of all, we are told this is where education really has to come in. People, there's this stigmatization of menstrual cycle, of a woman having menstrual, even though it is what brought me and you here, and all of the earth, everybody on planet Earth. There's a stigmatization that it's not, it's unclean. Yeah, if we want to look at it from the African concept now, whether we're talking of Namibia or Nigeria, it is unclean. It is seen that way. Now, this stigmatization, what happens is it affects the woman mentally, that they don't find themselves in a place of rest, in a place of abundance, of their own abundance, a time where they should want to, instead of them saying things like, very simple thing, I'm not feeling right because I have my cycle and I need to take a day off work and rest. They would want to be the power woman, go to work, burning even more iron, even more magnesium, even more energy than they should. Okay. Now, about nutrient, therefore, you see a women that when a woman is not eating right, she's gonna have a very funny cycle. Yes. In general. So if your cycle starts with a coffee. Ooh. Yeah, the cycle starts with coffee and then it goes into sugar. And then from there it goes into bread, which is gluten, which is glue, glue, glue. I don't know why it's hard to understand that, but it's gluten. And then it's going to stay in the body, the uterine wall. Then this person is going to have more cramps because the body is going to try as hard as it can to shed everything there. But the glue has to be a bit more stronger. The cramps has to pull a bit more to release the glue. Now the woman automatically knows mentally, psychologically, whatever, it's going to come the period. I'm not feeling good about it. I'm going to have this cramp. So the whole thing is really interwoven. If you look at it from the dietary part through to the cycle itself, to the nutritional part, and the time itself, it's really a bomb. It's like we can't really differentiate it. We have to fix it right from the beginning. 1 minute.
Oh, me? Do I? Am I shining? I'm actually fine, but thank you so much. I'll take it.
Okay. So I hope I'm answering that.
No, you did. You did very well. Thank you. Again. So okay, you touched a little bit on mental health and how it intersects with menstruation health as well. What are some of the things that you would recommend for women out there, for young girls out there, to help them manage these different mood fluctuations that occur during our cycle?
Okay. Because our educational system is dumbfounded in the sense that we have not taught how to listen to our body. But the best teacher on planet Earth is this body, is ourself. It is this. And as women in general, we have one thing. I'm sure you're gonna understand it when I break. You know something without knowing it.
Oh yeah. Oh.
And we are the only species on planet Earth, even though we're just two, but we're the only ones who actually have this thing. So what you could tell is the first thing, the menstrual phase, the first thing you notice, I would tell a young woman is that mood state. Now, again, it is highly integrated with your food.
Yes.
If you eat right, you'll be able to manage this food. So you want to eat right in the first phase. Then you want to continue to the next phase. You want to start eating those things that you need if you're trying to conceive to put your egg in a good state. Now, even if you don't want to put your egg in a good state, what I tell people to then do is exercise. Like for every young woman, that's where you come in, like lots of it. It can't be too much. I don't do lots of it. I do it in my brain, and that's enough, But I do it in my mind. No, but really, I sit like 20 minutes, and I'm like gymming in my mind, and then I stand and I was like, okay.
I mean, there's been research that has proven that that is a thing, the placebo effect.
So lots of exercise is very, very important. The only thing that I really think, for me personally, that works in that second phase is this I think it's called, you lie on the ground and you put your elbow on the floor. I don't know the name. Plank.
Oh.
Plank. Yeah, plank. Plank is really good because what happens is that you are helping the, the uterus contracting on its own. It's gym. It's like a training on its own. And then in the third phase, which is the ovulation phase, do nothing. Just enjoy. Just rest. Just take yourself out for a dinner. I mean, I don't see sisters going out for dinner since I came to Namibia, but I go out a lot. Like I take myself out and I invite me and I sit with me and we have a conversation. And then of course in the final phase, we're preparing for the first stage. So that's where we eat. So what I would tell people is don't make sure that there's a German word that say 1 apple a day keeps the doctor away. So at least make sure the food is really, even if you want to eat lots of the mahango, which is very nutritious by the way, and lots of meat, which is a specialty in Namibia. I've noticed it's in every shop, but make sure that you have lots of fruits, vegetable, rest, gym, and time for yourself. Like the gym cannot be overrated. It's just my daughter. I send her to gym now. Like somewhere in bedroom.
Nice.
Because I notice what happens to her when she goes through that.
That's so powerful. Listen to that. Where would a lot of us be as adults if our parents were like, "Honey, it's time for you to go to the gym." Not like that. Not like, "Oh, there's something wrong with you," but it's like, "Go.
It's time to go to the
this
gym.
is a positive."
It is
for you to do to pour into yourself. As adults, we would all just would find it so much easier.
My daughter, I could tell when I know, even if she doesn't tell me, I know she has to go to the gym because her attitudes, the way she like, you could say good money, she'd be like, so what's so good about the money? I'm like, you need to go to the gym. And then she does it for another 5 days straight, 6 days, and then she's another person. She's the butterfly again, And so the gym thing is really very important, especially I like to encourage my young girls between the age of 17 through 25. It's very important. You need to have a strong uterus. You need to prepare the body. So even if you want to have a child at 40, what you do at 17 through 25, 30 would determine at 40.
Temu, what you're saying is so important. This message is so important. I think, we need to make sure this episode gets into the ears of young girls so that they can understand how important it is for them to start moving now and attach something positive to that instead of feeling like there's something wrong with me. I need to go work out because I need to fix ABC. But it's no, you are doing this because it makes you feel good. It's good for your overall health. And this is the beginning of you preparing yourself for like
exactly
a nice lifestyle and healthy relationship with yourself, with your body, with food, with your mental health. Come on.
If you look at time memorial, our mothers used to farm. Our mothers used to do things. Our generations don't do that.
Yes.
Our generation live from the 4 square box, right? And so we do everything. We shop from home. We do everything from home. But now the only way by which we could stay online like our sisters or our mothers, our grandmothers, is to go to gym. Is to go to gym because we don't even walk to school anymore.
We don't walk
we don't do anything anymore.
No one wants to walk.
So it is very, very, very important. It's something you can't just throw away.
Oh, wow. I'm like taking it all in and really enjoying this discussion. I hope you guys are too. Let us know if you are in the comments on YouTube, if you're tuning into the podcast on YouTube, and if you're listening to us on Apple Podcast or Spotify. Give this podcast a share with somebody who you know needs to hear this information. So, are there any particular? Actually, before we touch on that, can you discuss the importance of stress management?
Oof, I could discuss it for a lifetime.
Yes.
Stress management is basically the most important thing. I think from my research, I think there's only 3 diseases that hasn't got to do with stress. Or 2. Yeah, 2, 3 or 2. The eyes and money. Yeah, the money, the whole thing, I don't have money thing.
Yes.
Which I'm beginning to think it has to do with stress as well.
Yeah.
What stress does is that we start to produce the cortisol.
Yes.
And now when you produce the cortisol, imagine producing adrenaline. Before I go into cortisol,
Yeah.
imagine producing adrenaline. The noradrenaline you produce it. That's the hormone that would make you want to lift up a car
Yeah.
if you see a child under the car. Now you're processing an opposite of that, a cortisol, the stress hormone. This is going into every organ, especially the pancreas. So people who tend to have lots of stress have diabetes. People who tend to have lots of stress have issues with kidney. Maybe not the kidney itself, but the adrenal gland on the kidney, because that's the one that regulates this. So stress, and then if you have stress with, just see it from this angle. Imagine having stress with lots of stress and the norm, and taking lots of pills or tablets to whatever, put the body in a sort of relaxing state, quote unquote. What happens is this: each of this tablet you're taking to manage stress, instead of meditation, instead of going to the gym, instead of taking walk, instead of doing everything, dancing, singing, each of this medication stays in your liver, for 8 weeks.
Wow.
Now, what happens to the liver over time? The liver say, I can't do it. The
Process
liver say, this is just too much for me. Put it in the fatty area. What happens then? It goes straight to the pancreas. The pancreas start doing, I could help. I'm going to try. I'm going to do something to assist you. By so doing, the kidney or the liver, is not detoxing as it should.
Yeah.
Bringing excess blood into the kidney, where the kidney has to filter, do a little bit harder. The more the kidney does a bit harder, the heart says, you know what? I don't need to be pumping too much blood into that area. Maybe I could slow down. You automatically have a low blood pressure.
Wow.
So stress is everything.
Wow.
It's just everything. There's no words to describe it. It is everything. A woman who is pregnant who stresses with clothes, even if she's 9 centimeters, will go back to 765. I've seen it happen many times. A woman who's trying to get conceived who is in stress would not conceive. You know what I mean? A woman who's pregnant and worrying about how this pregnancy will go is most likely to lose it. So stress is everything. It goes into your periphery nerves. It goes into every part of your body. It's like thoughts. It's just like thoughts, because every time we think, every fiber in our body moves. And it's the same thing with stress. So we can actually decide how we want to manage stress by saying, instead of me going into the stress mode, I want to dance more. I want to produce more, oxytocin. I want to produce more, and other things. Because when you produce this, you are in turn, according to the people who manifest that I learned from, you are in turn taking the power from that thing back to yourself. I have seen it work with me a whole lot. When I came to Namibia, the whole situation, like I started just dancing every day. I told myself, you know what? It's going to be fine. And I just started dancing. And before I know, things started falling into place, So you're taking your power back from that, right? But when you're putting more and more, it's going to affect every part of the body. So from my experience, from Alzheimer to diabetes to whatever, from stress. Of course, we have a lot has to do with the brain itself, the mucus in the brain, the inflammation, which then goes into stagnation, and then from the stagnation to what you would call crystallization, and the crystallization is then the disease, which we call, and then after disease, exactly. And when the body is crystallizing, what happens is therefore then that the particular area start to coagulate, and when it coagulates, you hear tumors, you hear fibroid, you hear all of this, when in real sense what you have to do is just to let go.
Manage your stress and let go.
Just let go. Let go, eat right, dance, do these things. It worked with me. I'm going to just use this as an example. I was going in 2014. I went through a very terrible time of my life, but I call it challenging now. I'm grateful it happened, because it awoke my, to another dimension of life. I had kidney issues.
Wow.
And I was told that, if you had seen me like this right now, I'm very fat. I was weighing 43, 44.
Wow.
Yes. And it was in Austria, and the doctor diagnosed me, and I said, okay, let me go to somewhere else. I spoke to someone and I said, go to the beach, go here, go there. So I went to Spain. And I was in Spain, and I saw another doctor, and he said the same thing, like, oh, the kidney, you need to do dialysis.
Mm.
And somehow, I can't remember exactly how it happened, but I met a man, and he's a Mexican, and he told me, I need you to dance every day. And I was like, I need to get rid of
Yeah.
not dance.
Yeah.
And he said, in your DNA, in your gene, you're a dancer. Africans dance. And you are in another part of the world where you are not allowed to do these things, or where it's not seen
Yeah.
as a norm. Go back to this. And I started doing it every day. And then I met him after 4 or 5 days. He said, okay, go on this certain herb every day. Then don't eat this every day. And in 3 weeks, I stopped it. In 3 weeks, I literally forgot about the situation.
What was happening?
Yeah, and before I knew, I was just normal. And in 3 weeks, when I went to meet the doctor for another test and all that, the results I got was, oh, there's definitely a mistake in the last diagnosis. Wow. And that was in 3 weeks. And then I continued for 3 months. And when I went back to Austria, there was no need for dialysis. There was a mistake. That was the same thing they told me. There was a mistake because you can't change from here to here. It's just too short a time that no medicine can do that, because the kidney cannot grow. Yeah. And that's the power of stress management. Wow. And here I am. That opened my eyes to another person, to a new person, to herbs, to I don't know a lot about the manifestation, but I've been doing them, without knowing them. I heard something recently about grounding, but that's been a norm all my life. I walk around barefoot all the time, right? So that's talking about stress. We could talk about that for a whole time, but that's my story.
I actually really love how you tied that in, because a lot of the ways that we cope in healthy ways are things that we just naturally do already. For me, I love to lay on the ground, and Lord, who knew that was grounding? I would always just lay on the floor, and I just loved how I felt laying on the floor. So these small subtle things that we are actually intuitively do as well. We know how to take care of ourselves.
Yeah,
we've just been really disconnected from that inner knowing, from trusting that, and going with the random thing. Like, if your inner child says, take me to the jumping castle, you go to the jumping castle and you jump around. Like, you don't ask questions. Just do the thing.
Just do it.
So how would you say cultural attitudes and societal norms, actually, before we go there, you touched on something that I really want to come back to before we move on. You were talking, it's lost me.
No,
it'll come back.
It will.
So let me come to this question now. How would you say culturally, which you touched on a little bit, at societal norms, influence a woman's ability to embrace her menstruation cycle, to embrace this journey? And what can we do? What can a young person, and even an older, let me not say old, ain't nobody old out there.
All right.
What can we do to embrace this?
Now, firstly, I'd say, being a person who has been opportuned by the universe on my side to live in different parts of the world, I have come to realize that the Western mindset, when it comes to embracing the menstruation of a woman, we as African are way back.
Yeah.
In this area. So you see, you could go to a doctor and say, due to this, I'm not feeling well. And you could actually have a sick leave for that, right? So it's a norm. It's almost a norm. It's accepted, even though it is still stigmatized. Not like it is stigmatized like we are. In Africa, it's something else. I can tell you about Nigeria. There are places in Nigeria, if you're in that, it depends on the area, of course. You're not allowed to enter a certain area. You're not allowed to cook. You're not allowed to do so many things, okay? And you can imagine how a woman feels innately, knowing that she is just needed for a certain thing and she's not accepted as a whole. Yeah. That is another level of abuse of the mind.
It really is.
It is an abuse of the mind. So what I do, and which I think it is a way by which you or people in general would accept and come to this understanding, is I go to schools. I teach children in school on the internet, which was inspired by you, by the way, I I started a new platform now, Catch Them Young, where I try to educate the mind of the child. And I think one way is for parents to start to talk to their children.
Yes.
And I don't mean talking to the girl child, I mean talking to the male child. Because the stigmatization is not coming from the girl, it's coming from the boy. And he's been taught so many things that might be contrary to the truth. So teaching the boy, talking to the boys about it, talking to the fathers to talk to the boys about it, educating the children in general. I'm not talking about the education of the classroom, of the school education. Well, because I never went to school, so I don't know how that feels. I'm talking about the real life education. So a typical example is having workshops.
Yes.
Workshops, which is what I am really bending towards at the moment here in Namibia. Free, even if it's for very little token or something, but workshops to educate the people about what it is. Because if people begin to understand that without this menstruation, my mother wouldn't have had me. So I am actually a product of this. I should be grateful and acceptance to the, you know what I mean? So that is one way. I think workshops, educating at home, teaching them at home, talking to them about these things, letting them know, especially the boy child, my woman cannot eat this certain food at this time, having that respect. It is not just teaching the boy to be respectful towards his wife or girlfriend, it's teaching the boy towards women and life in general. Because we birth earth, right? We are the mother of earth. We give birth to everybody.
And there's such a huge disconnection from that true respect and reverence that women deserve in the community and society. It's so disconnected, and it's been embedded in literally
in everybody. It has become a stigma. Period has become a stigma. When I was growing up, I'm opportune to grow up. My father was a different kind of person, no stigmatization. So I had two brothers who once you're behaving a certain way, we just say, what time of the month is it? And we liked it because they kind of like, okay, you have your way, you be the boss for this time, just 2-3 days, okay, and I'll be the boss again. And I liked it, and that's how I raised my one boy, my son, the same way. And once my son sees my daughter behaving in a certain way, he'll be like, do you need a glass of water? Should I add salt, like Celtic salt in it? And this is the kind of thing, this is how we need the society. And that we could do through workshop, through what you do, through podcasts like this, through educating our children, and of course educating our parents. Because many parents do not talk about these things.
No, that came to my mind when you were saying talk to your kids, because I was thinking about when I got my period. My mom wasn't in town, and my sisters who were around were just like, "Here's the pad, like figure it out." And after, like you're not gonna die. I remember I woke up crying. I was like, "What is happening?" I was so emotional, and they were like, "Girl, just put the pad on, you'll be fine." And that was it. And then my mom came, and then we told her when she came back from the weekend, "Oh, I got my period," and then that was it. There was no talk. There was nothing. So even the education for how to take care of yourself, how to clean up after yourself. How often do I change my pad?
No.
What is this pad thing? Like how do I use it? Like everything was just sort of figure it out on your own. But I love that at least the world is really moving in a different direction. And
it is.
My children's children will be talking about these things in classrooms, and nobody's gonna break out laughing like we in the settings I was in. All the boys would just giggle. The women would just cower in shame and be like, "Oh my God, yes, I'm doing this. I'm going through this thing that they're talking about." But there was no need for any of that to exist.
No,
your work is so important, Temu.
Thank you. Now it's my turn to thank you.
Right? So just to close off, we're focusing specifically today on a discussion about menstruation, mental health, and food. What are some insights that you can share for women and for young girls who are seeking to optimize how they experience these different phases? Honestly, it's just your life, because we just live one big cycle. It's 4 weeks. If you think about it, it's every damn week, every damn 4 weeks we go through this. So
all right,
how can we optimize this?
To optimize this, you have to think in terms of frequencies.
In terms of, yes, frequencies.
I'd like to think in terms of frequency. So if I am in the beginning of my period, one thing I don't do is my phone is like almost dead.
Mm.
I do not want anything coming to take from me.
Right. Yeah.
I need to save what I have. Okay, unless I have a meeting. So thinking in terms of frequency.
Yeah.
Then on the other hand, in terms of frequency, I mean the food again.
Yeah.
Many people, women, it is really alarming the rate at which women lose iron, become anemic.
Yeah.
So eating right again. Food is frequency.
Food is
The
frequency.
food is coming from the sun. Sun gave life. And we are sun people.
Yeah.
So we can only benefit from the right food. So when we think in terms of frequency, we're just following the path. Now, and then in the third phase again.
Before you move on, how would you tie in the mental? So let's touch on
that's what I'm coming to.
Okay.
Now, the amount of women, there's a scientific research that do commit suicide. That in their menstrual period is about 74%. Yes. The amount of suicidal women who are suicidal or commit suicidal thoughts of suicide is in the menstrual phase. Now, how do we connect that together?
Yeah.
Now, if a woman is eating right, doing all of the exercises, letting the lymphatic system flow, because rebounding, when you every time you lift the weight and hit it, boom, on the ground, you let something go. You let something go. Letting all the organs flow as they should does not overpower the brain. So your mental capability is intact.
Yeah.
It has a lot to do with the mood as well. When you're eating right, your mental capacity, right? You're not being moody, you're energetic, you are alive. If you are alive mentally, physically, from your food and all of that, then your mental health is automatically in place.
Yeah.
We can't really separate these things. Like, it is all interwoven. It is all interwoven. I think one thing that really affects, I can speak for my daughters. I have 3 girls and 1 boy. And I think one thing that really, really affects the mental health when it comes to the period, the woman health, is that the women do not move enough. Because when we move, we don't only see, we also assimilate, we also let go, we also ground ourselves, we also, we do a lot of things. When I mean moving, I mean any sort of moving.
Yes.
You're dancing, you're gym, you're doing what I do.
Yoga.
The brain
mental workout.
The mental workout, but it works. Look, I mean, it works. Movement is very, very important. So I think when it comes to all of this together, you have to think in terms of frequency. You have to think in terms of what am I allowing in. It's not time to listen to gossips.
Yeah.
I hate gossip.
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah. It's not time to start watching horror movies.
Oh,
because that is when you will see the woman was stabbed to death and you will see exactly that blood that you're just letting go. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I would say it's really time to think in terms of frequency. Yeah. Of frequency. Frequency in food, frequency of the people around you. If the people around you, their energy should be right with you. You should be able to talk to your partner like my husband would say, it's the time of the month. What do you want to eat? Because of my mood. Yeah. And then I start laughing. And then everything changes. Frequency. Yeah. That's what I would say. Thinking in terms, taking care of yourself in terms of frequency.
I love that. I want us to round up because you touched on this previously in previous questions, but to tie in the mental health aspect with the different phases. So you touched on the first phase with menstruation. Yeah. Let's get into the second phase.
Oh, in the follicle phase, which is the time you feel, I don't know, you feel yourself.
Yeah.
You know that.
I'm there now.
Yeah. You see that woman on the street, she just walked by, you're like, she's so radiant today. What happened? There's something about it. In that phase, just do the best of you. Yeah. This is why I always encourage women, and from my research, the women that really take fruit in this phase, they boost everything. preparing themselves. So lots of fruit, lots of vegetables. But then it is time for you to also see the beauty in yourself.
Yeah.
The beauty, the empower, self-empowerment. I think that's what they will call it.
Yes.
The self-empowerment. So because you're going to come to the phase where you don't want to see anybody anymore. But this is going to prepare you for the next phase as well. So as much as you are eating right, you're empowering yourself. Do things you love. A lot of things you love. Like what I do is I read a lot. In my second page, I'm reading. Like I love reading a lot. Oh gosh, I could read. I could read like when I was 6, I had already read. No, when I was 7, I had already read over 50, 60 books at 7.
Wow.
So I really love reading. So do things you love for yourself.
Yeah.
Then the third stage is the time you do have fun, enjoy it, let it be the boss.
That's when I want to be social.
Yeah, be the boss, enjoy. Eat right. Do some little nasty stuff if you have to. Don't be too particular about it. And again, then you come to the final stage where mentally, the final stage and the first stage are so similar. They're so similar and so interwoven. Whatever you do in the first phase is going to affect the final phase. And if you're someone who's going to get pregnant, say the person is pregnant in the final phase, what I tell people to do, just live your life. Yeah. Do the Rihanna thing. Just live your life. And then be around people you love. Be around people you love because they affect your mental capacity. You need to understand because at this time you want to be be in charge of your emotions. Because emotions is what drives us into anything we're doing. Our emotions are the key to the point of wherever we're going. So you want to be in charge of your emotions. You want to have the right people around. This will make your mental state be in balance as well. But if you're around people who see you as, which is, I'm sorry to say that, most likely in the office space, where a lot is expected from you at this time, your mental thing will be down. So it's important to think in point of frequency, but also think in point of being loving yourself, the self-love, doing that thing that works with you. Take your time to go out. I like to write down what I learn in every phase. And in every phase, I learn something. So I encourage my women, I tell them, okay, in the first phase, what did you learn? My last phase, I learned that I can't be kind to everybody. Unfortunately, I want to be nice to everybody, but I cannot be nice because it was a time like it's the second phase, where my mouth is almost bigger than my brain. I could just say it the way it is and don't even think. And then I realized, oh, maybe I didn't say it right. But then I thought about it. No, she actually deserved that thing at that time. So in every phase, you write down what you learn and implement it into the next cycle. And mentally, before you know, over time, at this age of 45 plus, you begin to see your cycle like, it's just a cycle. It's just gonna come and go.
And the beauty of the lesson, I love how you tied that in there. I feel like you would learn so much about yourself.
Oh yeah.
By the time you get to menopause, that you would be like this queen who's just so embodied, who knows herself, who has
in
confidence.
Africa, or we're in Africa. There's this thing that the elderly people are wiser.
Yes.
Have we ever asked ourselves why? Why?
Why?
They did something we didn't do.
Yeah.
And they have passed through these things. They have put themselves first. Even as much as we're kind and loving to everybody, they put themselves first. Even as much as they listen to themselves, they take time for themselves. Every time a woman goes to the farm, I can speak of my grandma. Every time she goes to the farm, she's using the earth. She's talking to the earth. And I'll be like, why is she talking to the earth? And now I realize it's grounding. And then you'll be surprised that when I turn 40, 30, I have to depend on this woman for that knowledge. Because she has embodied everything in this process. So we can actually do the same that they got at 75, at 40.
Yeah, look at that.
If we want to make it work.
If we
want to make it work.
If we want to make it work, and start now, especially those young girls listening. Start now. Oh, Temu, it was so lovely having you on the show. This is part 1 of many. As you can tell, we can talk for a long time, and I'm like also like picking her brain because all of those books she's read has led to a wealth of wisdom that she's walking around with, and I just want to pick it all and share it with you guys. So thank you so much for joining us, Temu. Just in the meantime, where can people follow you and connect with your work? And
with my work, you can connect with me on pregnancy, health, and fertility. it's easy to know. You see a woman with a blue dress and a pregnant woman. I like to describe it because there's another pregnancy health and fertility,
Oh.
and that's on Instagram. And the same thing I have seen on TikTok. But there's another thing when it concerns the young mind, the young child, that I am doing right now, and it's on Catch Them Young. Catch Them Young is also on Instagram. That's where you find me. It's a new page. You want to go there. You want to, tap the mind of the child. I can speak about the mind of the child a whole day. Like, I don't get tired of the mind of the child. I was talking to someone the other day that came into this house and saw this and said, "Oh, it's so nice." I say, "Yes, but it would really be nice if we have Queen Nziga on it, if we have Queen Amina, if we have Kwame Nkrumah on it, and then I know it relates with me."
Yeah.
Because that's what the child thinks in images. So you want to look up to that and follow me. Make sure you follow me on that page, on these two pages, and of course, ask all your questions.
Yes. I'm going to leave all of Temu's links in the show notes. Click through, give her a follow, engage with her in her DMs, no problem. Engage with her in her DMs and just connect with her. I mean, just listening to her, I know you got to the end of this episode because I was like, I don't want it to stop, but we know why we made this a series, because we knew there was going to be a lot to touch on. And just listening to you close now, I got another idea that perhaps we need one episode also just on the child of the mind and exploring that.
Oh my gosh, please! Right? I wanted to ask you. That's synchronicity, right? That's what you call it, right? You see, I learned. Yes, an episode on the mind is very important. Right. That would be a very important one. That would be a very important one. Very important. Being a homeschooled child,
especially with your perspective as a homeschooled woman herself, and then she's homeschooled her children. Yeah. I think that's so freaking cool. Like, the frequencies are aligning with my personal interests so much. So thank you once again for joining us, Temu. We appreciate you. I'm celebrating everything that you're doing and everything that you're going to do here. And this work and your work is so important in Namibia. It's needed. We need you. We want you. We love you.
Thank you. I love you guys too, and thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Everyone listening and watching, thank you so much for tuning into the podcast today. We will catch you in the next series with Temu. So keep a lookout for when that episode is going to come to your ears and eyes. And I will catch you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.
Yay. Amazing. That was so good.
Hopefully.